Welcome to Ghostly.
Does William Henry Harrison still haunt this world?
Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, Pat.
What do you have planned for President's Day?
I got up to work.
This is our President's Day episode that's coming out after President's Day.
Yes.
Just close proximity.
Close enough.
Now, I do not have to work.
That's nice. I'm very happy for you. I'm not at all jealous.
You sound maybe a little bit jealous.
Maybe a little bit, but it's okay. I like my job and we're busy, so
yeah.
I should show up and
that's job
get
security.
stuff done. Yes, that's true.
So what else do you have planned before the next episode?
Our big thing that we got going on is C2E2.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because our next episode comes out on March 4th.
Right. So that'll be just after.
Just after.
And we have so much going on.
We do.
I mean, I think our biggest thing is, I think we announced it last time, right? We have on Saturday at 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock.
At the fountain.
At the fountain where you don't have to actually buy a ticket to get in.
Right. At McCormick Place in Chicago, downtown Chicago, we have a fan meetup.
Yeah, with Bob After Dark.
Of course. Bad. He's going to be there.
Who's bad?
Who's bad? No, I think it's going to be super fun. So this is February 29th, a day that only happens once every 4 years.
Yeah.
So super rare, and who knows what kind of creepiness might happen. And yeah, we're hoping to meet up with as many Ghostly fans and bad fans as possible.
The Ghostly Society.
I'm sorry, Ghostly Society.
The Society of Ghosts.
So no, if you're in the Chicago area, definitely, think about coming down. Like we said, you don't have to go to C2E2, but to be honest, it is super fun just to be in the lobby because you see all of the amazing cosplay. Yeah. And especially on Saturday, it's amazing the costumes these people put together.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. If you're not going to go get an autograph or a photo op with one of the celebrities and you don't really care about the shopping aspect of it all.
I don't understand. I mean, the shopping...
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
And the panels and stuff like that. But if you don't care about all that, you just want to see people in cosplay and meet people, you don't even have to pay. You just go to McCormick Place that day, hang out by the fountain. You'll see plenty of people.
Yeah, plenty of people, lots of cool stuff. And then, it's right by a lot of the museums and all sorts of fun stuff to do in the city. So, yeah.
So come on by. We would love to meet you. We have buttons.
Yes.
And we will be glad to. We're going to bring a black marker this time so we can sign them.
Yes, we had some struggles last time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's going to be good.
All right. So do you have any listener mail for this episode?
I have a great listener mail.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I like great ones.
Yeah. This one, I just love this story so much. I have to say, I'm excited. We have a few stories out there now that we've been getting. I want more because I like having choices, to kind of theme things up if possible. But this one came from our Ghostly Society on Facebook.
Oh, our group.
Our group.
Yeah, that you can get to if you just do a search for Ghostly Society or Ghostly Podcast, it might come up as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
You can go on our Facebook page and, we link every so often to it. So
yeah, it's been really fun.
It has.
We post out some of our research and episode ideas and people post a lot of fun memes and different fun stories and anyways, but we've had a lot of people sharing their stories in the society, and so I want to share some of those out to our listeners.
All right.
So this is Tanya.
Okay.
And this is such a great story. So here we go. We had a strange kind of neighborhood growing up. My grandma owned most of the property down the riverfront, nicknamed Tin Can Alley because we were not rich, but she wanted us all together as a family. Not everyone was blood, but still considered family. Down the road from us lived an older man named Earl. I called him Uncle Earl.
Aww.
Earl was simple, hardworking, good old boy type, and always wore a red bandana as a sweatband. He always told me to, quote, mean what you say and say what you mean.
That's really good advice.
It is. One evening, he told my grandma he'd chop some wood for her in field next to my house. Before he could do it, he passed away in his sleep that night.
Aw, poor Earl.
I know. The funeral took place within a couple of days, and everyone agreed he would be buried in his bandana. Of course. The night of the funeral, I was asleep in my bed, and I kept hearing a banging sound from outside. I got up and told my dad. He said he could also hear it, so he took a spotlight and looked around outside and didn't see anything. This happened a couple of times, so he said it was probably sounds carrying over the river or through the woods surrounding us, and we went to sleep. The next day, Dad went out and took a look out in the field, and he ran back to Grandma's house, and his face was white as a sheet. He said that the wood pile had been cut, split, and perfectly stacked. And there was the red bandana Earl was buried in, sitting right on top.
Wow.
How sweet that his unfinished business in life was keeping his word. I never feel his presence, so I know whatever lays in wait for us after life, he is on his next great journey.
Wow, that was really good.
Yeah, it's like the sweetest ghost story I think I've ever heard, and I was very excited to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel for Earl and all of his family and friends.
And just what a sweet, sweet man he sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that are not so sweet, it's time to do the polls.
My favorite.
It's never my favorite.
Even though you do win sometimes.
Well, this one's going to be kind of weird. In our last episode, we talked about Bonnie and Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
So what were the results?
So the results were 52% said yes, they still haunt this earth, and 48% said no, they do not.
Now, here is the thing, though. The poll is still open.
Oh, sorry. I must have said it for a little bit longer.
So you have a chance, my skeptic bros, which are both male and female.
Is it still going to be open after the new episode comes out?
Yes, it will.
Did I set it like
It'll
that?
be open 2 more days after that.
Okay.
So we can't be sure it's going to end up this way.
Oh.
So all of our polls, people vote on them on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's facebook.com/ghostly podcast. We usually put it out the Thursday or Friday after an episode launches.
Yes. And I usually keep it open until right before we record. So I must have mixed up the dates in my mind.
And this one, there wasn't that many votes, too. So
yeah, it was a little lower voting. So
really, one person could sway this whole thing. One skeptic bro, male and female.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'm declaring this win and moving on.
Okay. Well, that brings us to today's episode.
Yay!
It's all about William Henry Harrison, the 9th president of the United States of America.
And I will admit that neither of us was quite sure which number president he was.
No, and it wasn't the easiest thing to find either. So, yeah.
William Henry Harrison.
Now, you may be asking yourself, why have I never heard of this man? I mean, some of you have.
Or they may have, they just didn't know that was his name, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, some of you have, but some of you haven't. Well, that's because he was only in office for 31 days.
Yep. And so that might have been, you may have heard that there was a president like that. You may have heard that story, but you didn't know his name.
So this is our President's Day episode. And previously, we've done an episode for George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, 2 of the finest United States presidents. I'm
Very
not going to
well
say
known.
the best, because I got in trouble for celebrating Abraham Lincoln's birthday, calling him the best president. I still believe he's really up there.
Yes.
So this one's a little bit different. For President's Day, we're going to talk about the first president to die while serving, and the president with the shortest term, just 31 days. No other president has ever served that short of a time.
Yeah, let's hope that it stays that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are a lot of reports that he haunts the White House. So we thought, it would be great to do an episode. So Rebecca, are you ready for your famous ghost story segment?
I am.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm excited. This is going to be This is going to be a crazy episode. So please keep listening because the craziness just keeps going and going and going.
Even through the ghost stories. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much, but I will say whenever you look up ghosts in the White House, he will always be on the list.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So here's our ghost story for today. Imagine you are a new administrative assistant at the White House sometime in the past. You pick. You have a great first few weeks getting to know all the systems. I mean, it's the White House. It's so important, and everything you do has an effect on the business of the government. Many people work overtime, and you soon join in. There's just always so much to do. One night, you were working late, prepping for an important meeting with a world leader the next day. While there are some people around, most people are gone or out, including the president and the family. You start to hear shuffling noises from upstairs. It used to be the attic, but now it's the third floor, and more parts of it are being renovated into living space. But there isn't supposed to be anyone up there right now. At first, though, you dismiss the noise as just a security guard or, just house noises. But it keeps getting louder and louder to the point where you can't keep ignoring it. Frustrated, you decide to go upstairs and see who is making all this noise. You've got work to do. You make your way upstairs. It's eerily quiet, not a peep from anywhere, except the area right above your office. And, really, also the Oval Office. It's still a storage space. At first you think maybe it's mice, so better just to call pest control. But then, you think it just sounds too loud and purposeful for that. So you decide to open the door and see what you can see. Unfortunately, what you see shakes you to your core. When you open the door, you see a figure with a blue glow, seemingly searching around. Not talking, but coughing? You slam the door and run back downstairs. Your first thought is to tell everyone. Then you decide maybe it's better to tell no one what you saw. They would never believe you. One of the night shift guards comes in to say hi and sees your face, still white as a sheet. The noise has stopped, but he looks up at the ceiling and back down to you and says, "Oh, looks like Harrison was rummaging around again in the attic." No idea why he does it, but this house definitely has its ghosts.
Wow. So
go.
where did you get that story from?
My head.
Your head. Okay.
It's based on the stories of his ghost, but yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
There's no particular.
Well, very, very well said.
Thank
I
you.
have to say. Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and take a break? And when we come back, we will do our history.
Yeah, it's going to be some interesting stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, host of Weird Darkness, where I share stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Recently named one of the best storytellers in podcasting for 2019 by Podcast Business Journal. Whether it's ghosts, cryptids, true crime, or creepypastas, you'll find it all in Weird Darkness. Episodes uploaded 7 days a week. Search for Weird Darkness in your favorite podcast app, or listen now at WeirdDarkness.com.
All right, welcome back. It's time for the history. Now, when I started to compile this information, I did not have any clue how long this would be.
I kind of assumed this was going to be one of our shorter episodes, to be honest.
I did too. He only was in office for 31 days.
Right.
I mean, how much of an episode could that be? No, there's a lot of history. And everywhere you go, there's a bunch of names. And if you try to research those names, you're going down the rabbit hole. And you start to realize that that they have been a part of politics since back way before America.
Oh, the
Way
Harrisons
before.
have?
The Harrisons, yeah.
Oh.
So just like William Henry Harrison himself, he has left a lot of questions after his death. And I really wanted to do an episode about him to clear up some of the misinformation that has been going on about it. There's, people that say this and that. I really would like to give the real story. So William Henry Harrison was born into a rather large family by today's standards. 7 brothers and sisters.
Oh, wasn't there a TV show?
That's
7
6.
Brides for 7 Brothers.
I thought you were talking about the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah, there is that too. Yeah.
So he was born on February 9th, 1773. Rebecca, do you want to talk about his zodiac sign?
I can.
Okay.
I like that 73 though. That's a good year.
Yeah.
All right. So he's an Aquarian, right?
Okay.
Same as my mother. So this is going to be interesting.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, famous Aquarians would be Ellen DeGeneres, Darwin,
Wow.
Shakira, yeah, and Oprah.
Wow. And Oprah.
So a lot of one-namers.
Yeah.
Darwin, Shakira, Oprah. That's all you need.
Only he's got 3. So,
Yeah, right.
because he had 3, nobody else needed more.
All right. So we have assertive,
Okay.
or as the Cosmo says, read obstinate. Analytical, read detached.
Okay.
Original, read eccentric. Humanitarian, read hippie. I'm not sure about that one.
Well,
that's interesting. Okay. Independent, read loner. Easygoing, read awake? ? And they're into, I don't know, anything that's avant-garde, new, anything, that's cool out there. They're an air sign. So they're all clever, opinionated, and analytical.
All right. Well, after I do the history, you tell me if he matches up with any of these things.
Yeah, I'm excited. So listeners, I will say, while usually I've done a little bit more reading with the history before the episode so that when Pat's talking about it, it's not totally new to me. I mean, there might be some new stuff, but this time there was so much that while I have read a few things, I certainly have not done the deep dive. So I'm just as much in the dark as all of you, and I'm excited to hear about this.
Just wait. So he was the youngest child of founding father Benjamin Harrison V. He was born in Charles City County, Virginia. His ancestors had been in Virginia since 1630. This family was born and bred for politics. Their political ties go all the way back to England, and probably even before that. One of the most interesting facts that we came about was that William Henry Harrison, or as I'm going to talk about him, WHH, was the last president born as a British subject.
Yeah, that
under
was
British America.
Right. We were, because then 1773. It was like, oh yeah, like I guess when he was born, it was before the Declaration. So.
And his wife was the last first lady born.
As a British subject.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. His father, Benjamin, served as a delegate to the Continental Congress and signed the Declaration of Independence. And he was the 5th governor of Virginia.
Okay, there's some pedigree there.
Right, definitely. WHH was homeschooled until about the age of 14 when he started to attend Hampden Sidney College, which was a Presbyterian college in Virginia. His father didn't like that because he was not Presbyterian. So he yanked him out of the college after 3 years. He then eventually transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And the ironic part is that he studied medicine under Dr. Benjamin Rush.
That name sounds familiar. Again, that's another rabbit hole, I'm sure,
Yes,
who
it
Benjamin
is.
Rush is.
It is.
All
It
of
definitely
that.
is.
We'll let that one go.
I take some of the rabbit holes. I don't take them all
That's
because
okay.
there's so much. But yeah, so he studied medicine. So the man that had the shortest term in office
Right, because of an illness.
studied medicine.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go back a little bit too, because that idea that he went to college at age 14,
Yes.
which I don't remember, but I was just listening to another podcast that was talking about the fact that I was talking about something that happened at Harvard and how, again, back then, right, like you went to college as a teenager. I mean,
Yeah.
not most people, obviously just the rich people, but
What was the other podcast?
Most Notorious.
Oh, nice.
I
Okay.
love it. It's a
Yeah.
great it's more like old crimes.
Okay.
So like so many of the podcasts today, they're like
The what cast?
the podcasts today.
I thought you said the podcast.
The podcasts. The podcasts today are like Crime Junkies or whatever. They're all
Yeah.
the like modern,
Yeah.
like current crimes. But this is he brings authors on and
great.
interviews them about their books that they've done about crimes from like, whatever, 100 years ago, a couple
Wow.
hundred years ago. Super interesting. But anyways, they were talking about how different college was back then. So it's just kind of funny to think like at 14,
Yeah, you're going to college.
he's going to
already.
college, but that was totally normal.
Yeah, well, most kids at the age of 13 started working the farm.
I was just going to say most kids.
That was when they were done with school.
Exactly.
So his father passed away shortly after he started to study medicine. That's the reason why he didn't finish. And WHH was 18. Robert Morris, a person he was staying with and future senator, actually became his guardian.
Also the name of a college locally.
Yeah, I believe it's named after him.
Okay, there you go.
But with the death of his father, WHH's family kind of ran out of money and couldn't afford his tuition. You'd imagine it would probably cost a lot to become a doctor. So he dropped out and joined the military. To be fair, though, a friend of his father's, a Governor Henry Lee III, convinced him to join. So on August 16th, 1791, Harrison was commissioned as ensign in the Army to the 1st Infantry Regiment. He was stationed at Fort Washington in Cincinnati in the Northwest Territory, where the Army was engaged in ongoing with the Northwest Indian War.
Now, oh man, I feel like I need, and maybe you're going to get to this. So, like, is this the United States yet? Or is this still like the Confederate States or?
Yeah, I believe this was the United States then.
Like we had signed the Constitution
Yes.
by this point and all of that. Okay.
Yes, I believe so. Do you want to Google that as I'm going?
Sure.
Harrison was promoted to lieutenant by Major General Mad Anthony Wayne. I know a Mad Anthony. He might be listening to this.
1788, June 1788 is when the Constitution was ratified.
So 1773. Yeah, so it sounds like it was the U.S. at that time.
Okay.
This was following a horrible defeat under Arthur St. Clair. So Arthur St. Clair was in charge. They had a really bad defeat. So Harrison was promoted to lieutenant by Major General Mad Anthony Wayne.
I like that that's his name.
Mad Anthony must have taken a strong liking to the boy, as he became his aide-de-camp, which is almost like his right-hand man, right?
Mhm.
And this is what taught WHH how to be a commander. WHH's mother, Elizabeth Bassett Harrison, passed away in 1793, and he inherited a portion of his family's estate, which included 3,000 acres and several slaves. But since WHH was serving in the Army, he sold it all to his brother. So I called this part of it when Harrison met Anna.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. When WHH met Anna Tuthill Sims of North Bend, Ohio, in 1795, sparks were truly flying. Her father was Judge John Clevis Sims. He served in the Revolutionary War as a colonel. WHH did the right thing and asked the judge for his daughter's hand in marriage, and the judge refused.
Oh, wow.
So, what are they to do? but they waited for him to leave town and eloped.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't let him get in their way.
Nope, didn't let him get in the way. They were married on November 25th, 1795. And since WHH was still in the Army, he couldn't get leave for a proper honeymoon, so they honeymooned at Fort Washington.
Oh, that's
What a romantic
She must have really
way.
loved him.
I think so. Now, as you can imagine, though, this kind of pissed off the judge. So the judge confronted WHH. It was at like a dinner engagement that they were at, and asked him how he was going to support a family. WHH strongly replied, "By my sword and my own right arm, sir." So this kind of won over the judge. And the judge sold him some land for him to start a farm and make a house. It was 160 acres.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, so in some ways he was a self-made man. I mean, he certainly came from enough money and background that he was able to call in some favors and, do
Especially
some things that most people couldn't.
Especially the political ties.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you see all the people that he hung out with and stuff, they were big time names.
Yeah.
Some of the names I mentioned in here, they're just crazy that, that he had connections that far up.
Yeah.
So WHH was a pretty frisky man. Let's just say that. like to woohoo.
In your
If you
Sim
would.
speak,
Yeah.
yes, you've been talking in Sim speak a lot, as we learned from the last episode.
Yeah.
Still into it.
So Anna and he had 10 children together.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and WHH also had 6 with a slave girl named Delicia.
Yeah,
Now, that is horrible, right?
definitely.
But one of those 6 children was the grandmother of Walter Francis White, who was a big-time civil rights activist and an executive secretary for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People until he died in 1955.
The NAACP.
Yep.
I like it.
So one of his kin went on to do that. So WHH was promoted to captain in May 1797 and resigned from the Army on June 1st, 1798 to pursue his political career.
Okay.
So the political career, wow. If I were to list off all of WHH's political history, we'd be here at least 3 hours, I swear. I mean, there's so much. So I'm just going to list off some of the offices that he held. These are not all of the offices and not all of the circumstances. These are the ones that I found the most interesting.
Okay.
So he had a post in the Northwest Territorial Government. It doesn't really list what it was, but he was appointed by President John Adams.
Okay, then.
He was acting territorial governor when Governor Arthur St. Clair, remember the one that lost the battle,
right.
Whenever he was absent.
Okay, so that's 2 so far.
Harrison defeated Arthur St. Clair for the first congressional delegate of the Northwest Territory in 1798.
Wow.
And I believe that was the 6th Congress or something. The
Okay.
6th meeting of the Congress or something like that.
Okay. All right, so that's 3.
He was chairman of the Committee on Public Lands and promoted the Land Act of 1800, which made it easier to buy smaller bits of land in the Northwest Territory for less money. $2 per acre.
I don't know if I could afford that.
I'd at least get a few acres.
Yeah.
In fact, if I didn't go to Starbucks for a couple of days, I could probably get like 10 acres.
There you go.
Yeah. This led to rapid population growth in that territory. So it's directly responsible for that.
Okay.
He also served on the committee that decided how to split up the Northwest Territory. So the Northwest Territory became what is now Ohio and Eastern Michigan, and the western section was named the Indiana Territory and consisted of Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and the other part of Michigan and a portion of Minnesota. On May 2nd, 1800, John Adams appointed him the governor of the Indiana Territory.
Wow.
So he wasn't elected, but he was appointed by the president.
Okay.
President Thomas Jefferson and James Madison kept reappointing him as governor and was given the power to make treaties with Native Americans. That is until he resigned on December 28th, 1812, to resume his military career in the War of 1812. Well, that and he was pro-slavery and found that the Indiana Territory was not. Jefferson secretly made a deal with James Lemon to defeat the pro-slavery movement led by Harrison.
I bet that's a whole other.
Yeah, so he also
hole.
changed political sides at that point too.
Oh, changed.
He
like,
became
parties.
a Whig.
Oh,
Yeah.
I gotcha. Interesting. So that was like what, 7? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot,
And that's just a sample.
yeah, just a sample of what is. Yeah, there was a lot more.
Wow.
Now, when I say that WHH stepped down to fight in the War of 1812, well, he's a major reason it happened in the first place. So since WHH was given the authority by the president to make treaties for the U.S. with the Native Americans, I'm not going to say Indians. I'm going to change that.
There you go.
So
Let's be clear.
the Native American tribes band together to meet with WHH in Vincennes, Indiana. I actually have a family history in Vincennes.
Interesting.
Yeah. In 1810, they came dressed in war paint. They were ready to go. The leaders of the group were brought to Grouseland, which was a house that WHH had made and one of the first brick structures.
Okay.
Tecumseh Shawnee wanted WHH to nullify the Fort Wayne Treaty. This treaty gave each tribe the right to sell land to the Americans, but the Native Americans believed that all the tribes had to agree. Tecumseh had threatened to kill any chief who signed the treaty if they carried out its terms. WHH refused. Tecumseh got upset and started to talk in his native language, which Harrison didn't understand, but one of WHH's men claimed to understand and cocked his pistol. Then many of the Native Americans drew their own weapons. WHH drew his sword, and they all backed down. Tecumseh informed WHH that he was going to seek help from the British before leaving. So in 1811, WHH was authorized to lead an army against. So he was the governor, right?
Right.
So the president gave the governor the right to lead an army into battle against the Native Americans or against the Confederation of Native Americans. It was a bunch of representatives from all the tribes.
Okay.
That Tecumseh formed. Tecumseh was wise to this and launched a surprise attack on the soldiers in Tippecanoe. This is what started the War of 1812.
Wow. It's such a hard history to hear for me. It's one of those things like, I mean, I'm here and I'm happy I'm here. You know, most of my family was not here at that time, or if they were, a few that were out east or whatever. But yet, the guilt and the weight of what was done, is pretty.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. It's really hard, and it's hard to process, and it's, So it's there, and we have to acknowledge it. But man, it's hard.
Well, I don't think there's many countries out there that came from totally legitimate means.
Yeah.
I believe every country out there has done something against another tribe or another country to gain land, or to protect their own land. So
still bad though.
It is definitely.
Yeah.
So during the war, General James Winchester made WHH a brigadier general. Now, I couldn't find out if this James Winchester was part of the Winchester family.
Oh, man, our Winchester Mystery House episode.
But I'm thinking so.
I mean, it's got to be related somehow.
Eventually, WHH and Lewis Cass were responsible for negotiating a peace treaty with the Native Americans. WHH would go on to serve in the House of Representatives and in the Senate after this.
All right, 8 and 9. Got it.
Yeah, right? So now we're starting to get into the presidential stuff.
All right.
WHH ran for president in 1836 and almost won. If he had received 4,000 more votes in Pennsylvania, he would have received all 30 of their electoral votes and won. So think about this. In an election that comes down to 4,000 people now, we would spend weeks and weeks and weeks recounting votes and doing all kinds of things to figure it out. But that was just like, nope, you lost.
Well, I mean, and I would say, I think even in some of our more recent elections, we've definitely had situations. It wasn't maybe just one state, but where we had several states where things were very close with it, and I think I also, sorry, can I get in my soapbox for like a second about why people should register to vote?
Yeah.
Again, I am not here to tell anyone who they should vote for. That is not usually my pitch. I just want everyone to vote. It's always important. My mom was an elected official, local elected official, and I have absolutely seen people lose those elections with like 10 votes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it happens. And those are the people that make the decisions a lot of times that affect our daily lives a lot more than even the national people. I mean, that matters too. Don't get me wrong, but
the feds.
The feds. But it matters, and it gets harder and harder as we go forward, and we, there's just so much noise, and it's hard to keep track of everything. But register to vote. Make sure that you are. Vote Save America is a website that you can go to. You can like just check and make sure that you're registered if you don't know. And there's the League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, nonpartisan group that is in a lot of places around this country, and they have candidate forums and all sorts of.
We went to one
of those ones, and it's such a great way because it's like, I don't know this person running for like committee chairman or like mayor or whatever, and it's a great way to actually see those people talk and then make informed decisions. And a lot of times those are like nonpartisan races too, like the local ones. So anyways, that's my pitch.
Especially the judges and the sheriffs.
Right.
I have no idea who these people are.
Right.
I usually vote for the name that sounds the most appealing to me.
Well, or like I'll sometimes like look at the
informed.
newspaper or something and kind of try to read it there. But so stay informed. Please vote. It's our civic duty and one that a lot of people fought and died for, and it's so important. When the majority of us don't vote, then the minority are making the decisions for all of us, and that's not good.
Absolutely. So going back to this.
Sorry. That's my soapbox.
WHH ran for presidency in 1836 as a Whig candidate.
Okay.
He lost to Van Buren. But this was a very interesting election, though. This was one of only 2 times in history that a major political party intentionally ran more than one presidential candidate.
Oh, because they didn't. Why would you do that?
I don't know, because they didn't know who to pick. I don't know.
Oh, you mean like in the final election?
In the final election,
I thought you were just saying like in the primary there was an incumbent and they still had. Wow.
Yeah, the second time was in 1860 by the Democrats.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. We would never see that now.
Both times it leads to the other side winning.
I would imagine, because you're splitting the vote.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you pretty much know going in.
Yeah.
But WHH almost won that.
Interesting.
So WHH ran again in 1840 as the Whig candidate and faced a sitting president, Van Buren.
Okay.
The Whigs nicknamed Van Buren Van Ruin because of economic problems in the country. And the Democrats named WHH Granny Harrison, the Petticoat General. I guess because he had resigned from the army before 1812 and then came back.
Oh, yeah. Weird.
Yeah, they made a big to-do about that. Like, you didn't just stay in the military,
And maybe was he older at that point?
He was, but not by any means was he an old man. I mean, well, yeah, he was for those times. He was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Late 60s.
So maybe that was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What really got WHH elected was that the Whigs boasted so much about his military career. So what they tried to take away from him, he brought back.
Aha.
And they used a slogan, tip a canoe and Tyler too. Have you ever heard that?
I have heard that. I had no idea from what, though.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I just heard it.
When I read it, I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It all comes together. So John Tyler was the VP candidate, and I know you're going to talk about him.
I am going to talk more about him. Really quick, though. So this was This was Harrison that used Tippecanoe and Taylor too?
Well, the Whig Party used it to promote him, so he used it.
Right. Okay. This was the other side saying.
He didn't have a choice. I mean, that's what they used.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tippecanoe and Tyler too actually became a hit folk song of the day.
Nice.
And the band They Might Be Giants covered it in 2004.
Ooh, maybe we'll have to post a link to that in our Ghostly Society.
Absolutely. So I believe the chorus goes something like this.
Okay.
For Tippecanoe and Tyler too, for Tippecanoe and Tyler too, and with them will be little Van. Van is a used up man.
Nice.
It kind of, it's kind of abrasive there.
I just said, like we always think of how our politics can certainly be harsh and judgmental and name calling and all of that, and they are. But I think we somehow have it in our mind that in the past it didn't used to be that way.
It was always that way.
It was always that way.
Yeah.
There was maybe a little bit of a break for a little while, but trust me, most of our history.
Well, also, you have to think about this. They needed something that was going to grab people right away when they went in to vote, because if you held a rally, if you held anything, there were no microphones.
Right.
So, when you think of like Abraham Lincoln given the Gettysburg Address.
Which was after this.
But still no microphones.
That's what I mean. Like, there was definitely nothing,
Yeah. When he gave that, there were thousands of people in attendance, but only like the first 5-10 rows actually heard what he was saying. The rest of the people just looked at him talking.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's all you could do.
The visual of it was really important.
Like, they used monocles and
binoculars
and
he was tall,
and stuff.
So that we're getting on to Lincoln, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So WHH took office on March 4th.
Which is later than
Yes.
we do today.
Yeah, they changed it.
Yeah.
We do...
January.
Yeah, January 20th, right?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know a little bit about politics.
Wow.
Maybe I should run for office.
You should.
Would you vote for me?
I would.
Okay. I don't think you'd like me once I got in. So.
Probably not.
So he took office on March 4th, and he left office by dying on April 4th, just 31 days later.
Oh, wow.
So this is really bizarre here.
Okay. This is the story that some people might have heard, but you're going to also give us some truth.
Yes,
okay.
I am. At his inauguration, he wanted to show that he still had it. He was still cool. So he chose not to wear an overcoat and hat. It was cold and wet. He rode on horseback to the ceremony and not in a carriage like everybody else, and they had provided for him.
'Cause he a man.
Yeah, because he was a general, so he wanted to show that he was the next Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So he also, during the inauguration, delivered the longest inaugural address in American history, 8,445 words. It took him 2 hours to read it, and that was after it was edited.
That's crazy.
Yep.
And like you said, could you imagine just sitting there listening to 2 hours?
Well, could you imagine if you weren't in the first 5 to 10 rows?
Oh.
And you just had to look at somebody? So they would have picnics and stuff in the audience.
Right.
He was also the first head of state to have his picture taken.
That is really a cool fact.
Like
I like
in
that
the
fact.
world.
Like not just in the United States.
Yeah, the first head of state, period. Yeah. So after all that, he rode in the inaugural parade and attended 3 balls.
Nice.
All without his jacket and hat. Now, some say that the inauguration is what did him in, that he got sick during that and never recovered.
That's the story that I have been told my whole life.
But it wasn't true. Yeah. He became ill with a cold after being caught in a downpour on March 26th, 1841. Over the next 2 days, his symptoms just kept getting worse and worse, and a team of doctors were called in to treat him.
Okay, so we got a cold, and we got some old doctors coming in.
Well, I don't know if they're old. They could be young doctors. I don't know.
Old for old standards.
Yeah. So the doctors diagnosed him with right lower lobe pneumonia and proceeded to bleed him.
Oh, goodness.
As was the process in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't do anything.
Oh, gee, shocker.
They tried a bunch of other things, a bunch of medication, a bunch of all this other stuff. Most of the medication that they had given him is stuff you could buy at Walgreens without a prescription now. So they didn't really have,
Oh, yeah.
the modern medicine, but everything that they tried only weakened WHH.
This sounds so much like Washington.
It does.
Remember when we did the Washington
Yep.
one? Middle of the bed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Middle of the bed. The White House didn't make a statement, so public speculation started to gain. And by the end of the month, there were large crowds outside the White House holding vigils. They still didn't even announce what was going on, just that nobody saw him for
Wow.
a couple of days.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So I was reading something. In 2014, Jane McHugh and Philip A. Makowiak did an analysis in Clinical Infectious Disease magazine. That's one of my favorite magazines.
I mean, I read it every month.
I do too. I live and die by that magazine, literally. They were examining Dr. Miller, which is one of his doctors, notes and records of White House water supply being downstream of public sewage. And they concluded that he likely died of septic shock due to enteric fever, typhoid, or paratyphoid fever.
Interesting. So, I mean, would that be related though to the
Yes.
fact that he had the cold and had been bled and so was weaker?
No, he didn't have a cold. He had septic shock.
Oh,
And that's why he went downhill so quickly
okay.
because of the sewage.
It's just weird that nobody else died.
We don't know.
I suppose that's true.
But, he lived there, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
His death caused a lot of issues for the U.S. The Constitution intentionally doesn't spell everything out, right? Because it's a living document. It didn't really say what to do in case of a president's death. So eventually, over a lot of heated debate, John Taylor became the 10th president after a 30-day mourning.
Yeah, so that's interesting because it's like I always just thought that was like what the Constitution said. Like the
No.
president dies, vice president becomes president.
Well, there was a question, too, does John Taylor become the president or does he just act out the job of the president and remains the vice president?
Oh.
Kind of like if you're playing poker and the big blind goes out, you have a dead big blind, so nobody plays it.
Okay.
That analogy is really bad.
Yeah. I play poker on occasion.
What?
But I can't claim to really be able to follow that. But I'm going to trust you.
So after a 30-day mourning, John Taylor became the 10th president.
Wow.
Tippecanoe and Taylor too.
Interesting.
Anna, WHH's wife, never actually made it to the White House. So she didn't get the same sickness
Oh,
that he
yeah.
had because she was already ill when he first went to the White House, and she was packing to move into the White House when she found out about his death.
Oh, wow. So she wasn't even there.
Nope.
How sad.
And she makes history, though, as the oldest woman to ever become first lady in U.S. history.
Well, okay.
She was 68 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, Nancy Reagan had to...
Well, I think until Reagan. I think they were the oldest until Reagan.
But how old was Nancy Reagan when she became first lady?
Good question.
Look that one up.
I will look that one up.
So she went on to live more than a decade after he died. But following WHH's death, she lived with her son, John Scott Harrison, who had a son, Benjamin, who served as the U.S.'s 23rd president. This created the only grandfather-grandson duo, which also made Benjamin the only man that could say that he had a father that was a president and a son that was a president. Now, I must say that there is a crazy story involving John Scott Harrison, though. When he died, body snatching was a big thing for medical schools. So the family made a lot of efforts to make sure that his body was untouched. They had planned to secure his gravesite by building a cement brick vault, filling in the grave with dirt mixed with heavy stones, and employing a watchman that would check his grave every hour of every night for 1 week. So the day of his funeral, it was discovered that the body of Augustus Devon, whom was buried the week before in a neighboring gravesite, was taken. The next day, one of John Scott's sons and one of Devon's sons went out to look for the body. They had search warrants and everything. They went to Ohio Medical College expecting the body to be there, but they saw dangling from a rope John Scott Harrison's naked body.
Whoa.
So they got him, even though they had planned this elaborate thing. So they took him before he was even buried.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Nancy Reagan was 60.
Okay, so she is still the oldest woman to become a first lady.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Nancy would have been 64 in Reagan's second term,
Right.
so still by 4 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, eventually Devon's body was recovered, though. But isn't that just crazy?
It is.
It's like a magic trick or something.
It does. It's like, and then the presto, and the body is here. Like, even though you thought it was back in the, it does.
So to make it worse, he was hanging by a rope over a trap door, naked.
I don't even want to know what they were going to do. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing that I have is on February 19th, 2009, the U.S. Mint released the 9th coin in the presidential $1 coin program, bearing WHH's likeness. A total of 98,420,000 coins were minted.
Well, that's the day that this episode comes out is the 19th.
So that's why we're doing it.
That's why we're doing it.
That's why we waited.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think he matched up with any of his zodiac sign?
Wow. Well, let's see here. So, I mean, he definitely seems like he was very independent. He did not follow the typical path of a lot of people.
No,
you know?
he was in northern the northern area of the U.S. and still was pro-slavery.
Yeah, and just kind of didn't switch political parties, whatever, fine, just did stuff. Humanitarian, I mean, I would say he certainly seemed like he cared about the U.S. anyways.
Maybe.
I don't know. Original, eccentric professor is what they say. Analytical.
Well, if you look at his picture, he does look like a crazy professor there.
Yeah, and definitely assertive. I would say that would follow.
Oh, I'm sure he was. He whipped out his sword and chased away Native Americans.
Very interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything else to add to the history?
No, you did a great job. It was very exciting. Lots of new stuff.
Yeah. And if you keep going down the rabbit hole, I'm sure there's Harrisons that are related to him still in office to this day.
I'm sure. And I know my town had a Harrison Street school. I didn't go to it, but...
Well, the person, Cass, that I mentioned, I forget what, in regards to what I mentioned it, we have a Cass Avenue in a western suburb.
We do. I bet it's from that guy.
Yeah. So, anyways, time for another break.
Okay.
Hey, True Believers, it's Dr. David Hickney. That's right, I'm a legit PhD. Anyway, there's still a butt ton of truth out there, so we're coming back for Season 3. It starts February 28th, 2020. 2020 is a leap year, so February has a 29th day. We don't dare post on that day because, as you know, Leap Day is the Spode's once quadrennial laundry day. It gets messy. Anywho, Freak of the Week Season 3, February 28th. Elizabeth will be there too.
All right. We're back, and now it's time for the debate.
Yes,
Rebecca, do you have a debate lined up for me?
Of course I do, because this
is it a strong debate? Do you feel strongly?
Yes.
Yes.
I always do.
Okay, good. Let's do this.
I mean, this is ghostly, so this is it. This is the real stuff.
Oh, this is ghostly?
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's-
thought we were doing our Walking Dead podcast, which is coming back
It
real
is
soon.
next week.
Well, yeah, next week, Wednesday.
Yeah. So a week from, like what would that be? The 26th.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So, no, I've got some ghost stories because, it's ghostly. So I'm
All
excited.
right, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to say there's really only one ghost story that gets told about William Henry Harrison.
Oh, okay, then we're done.
Well, no. I mean, I
Oh.
found some things that are related.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to start with him because he's our main guy.
We're gonna.
We're going to start with him because he's
Mhm.
our main guy.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, people claim he haunts the attic.
Okay.
That's the big thing, right? They
Haunts
claim
the
he
attic.
haunts the attic, which, as I kind of mentioned in my story, is really not an attic anymore. It's slowly, over the years, different presidents have remodeled the attic to make it more living space.
I would love to see what was in the attic. All the
Right?
artifacts and stuff. Oh my God, all the
Crazy
history.
stuff. Yeah. So again, as we said in this episode, lots of rabbit holes. We're choosing
Yeah.
which ones are going down.
Yeah.
But anyways, people, including several presidents,
Mm-hmm.
have heard noises coming from the attic in like a storage space,
Hmm.
or as the time has gone on, it's become living space. They still hear this rummaging sound like they're looking for something. Harrison has been seen in the attic as well, again,
Okay.
by people that have gone to look and see what's making the noise. And witnesses report that his apparition appears to take on a blue glow and that the sounds of his hacking cough accompany the sightings.
Okay. Sounds like my grandpa.
Yeah. And there's but no one knows what he's looking for. Like
Okay.
that's something that no one's really been able to figure out.
Can they help the man find something?
I know it would be
Maybe he's looking for his sword.
maybe or a cure. I don't know.
I don't know if there would be a cure in the White House. So, anyway, so how many? I just want you to take a guess at this. This is going to be purely guess.
Purely guess.
How many people would you say have seen him?
I'm gonna go with like 3.
Okay, how many people do you think have heard him?
That's probably more like 10 to 15.
10 to 15 people.
Yes.
Okay, in all of the history of the White House, we're talking.
Since he was there, yeah.
Yeah, John Adams was the first one to be in the White House. So, yeah. Okay. So, I just did a quick Google search. Google is not our sponsor, but they could be. Actually, no, I wouldn't want Google as our sponsor. Sorry, Google.
Hey, let's not make the people mad.
Yeah. Anyways, so I did a quick search, and currently in the West Wing there is 377 employees. Now, there is also 90 servants that serve in the mansion part where the president and first lady live with their family, and for all the shindigs that they have and
The shindigs.
for all the shenanigans that they have and all the parties that they hold. 90 servants.
Okay.
So you figure that number is probably closer to like 500, right? That would be fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
If I said 500 people worked in the White House currently. And I started thinking about this. Every president brings in their own people.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we say that each one brought in, 300, different people, we're still talking about thousands of people that have worked in the White House. And you're saying only like 20 people, 30 people might have seen or heard him?
So here's my thought is that, I think the White House has gotten a lot bigger over the last, 50 years.
But still,
Right.
even 2 presidents, that's 1,000 people.
So, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that there weren't that many people. They didn't have that many employees.
Yeah.
Like the whole third floor didn't even exist for a really long time. So My thought is, here's my theory,
Okay.
is that a lot of these sightings happened many years ago when there really weren't as many people in the White House. And now that there's a lot more and there's people around all the time, either they don't hear the spirits, because there's just too much going on. So they just kind of, whatever noise they might hear is just like, well, fine, there's like 50 people working upstairs. Like, I'm sure it's them. Or the spirits just kind of maybe stay away more because there's just more people around.
But even if we're talking 1,000 people in the whole history, even if we're just saying 1,000 people, which is totally lowballing it a lot, because if the current president has 377 plus 90 plus whatever else, tour guides and all those other things are in there. So we're talking that there had to have been, at least in our lifetime, over 1,000 people that have worked at the White House, different people. And we're talking 30 people. So that's like 3%. So as far as numbers go, numbers don't add up. If there was this ghost there, you would figure that percentage would be a lot higher.
Again, for me, I'm totally guessing that number. Like, I could be lowballing that. I'm trying to lowball because I don't want to, I don't have exacts. But I will say, like, it's definitely something that a lot of presidents included, people that have worked in the Oval Office, have claimed to hear these noises upstairs.
Sure.
They have not all investigated it. Some of them, I'm sure, wrote it off to whatever and didn't report it as ghost. So again, maybe the ones that have reported it as a ghost or reported seeing something ghostly is a smaller number, but that doesn't mean that those are the only ones that have heard the spirits.
I mean, I'm just saying that number has to be pretty low as far as a percentage base. So 3% of people is probably saying a lot more than there actually was. Because as I said, in our lifetime, there was at least 1,000 different people that worked in the White House. You're talking since Harrison died, there had to have been at least 5,000 people. So we're talking that number now goes down to, a percentage or 2 percentage points. And therefore, could 2% of people have things wrong?
I mean, I guess, but to me, like, that's not maybe, if we want to go numbers, it's a very localized haunting, right? It's in this one spot, in this one area of the White House. So not everybody, you can't count everybody that's worked in the White House that they would have had the opportunity to hear this particular spirit. It doesn't, it's a smaller number.
Logically speaking, there should have been a lot more people that have heard or seen, or there should be a lot more tales of WHH in the White House since his death, since he was only in there for 31 days. It just seems highly unlikely that small percentage of people are 100% accurate in their tales of what they're saying. Also, these things can, the White House is a very big building, right? You've been there. I have never been there.
I have been there.
Is it big?
No.
Big-ish?
No. It's actually so much smaller than you think it is.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not big, but like when we think like mansion, White House, like it's gotta be huge and it's America and America's house. Yeah, really not that big. I mean, for that, like it's surprising. They've added a lot of other annexes, and that's like other buildings where people work, because the actual White House itself is smaller than you might think.
Yeah, like the vice president doesn't stay in the White House. I always thought that growing up, that the president and the vice president live in the same place, but that would be kind of silly.
Yeah.
What if there was a bomb or something?
Right.
Okay, but anyways, I'm just saying percentage-based, it doesn't really mean as much to me when I start thinking of it in a bigger picture like this. But also the hacking, coughing sound could be something moving. It could be, it could be somebody else there that they hear an echo of. I mean, I could debate a lot of these individual facts, but I would rather go on the numbers.
Okay. So what's your final number then, 0 to 10, of believability for Harrison WHH in the attic? WHH.
What do you think it would be?
It's not my...
Just predict it.
I'm guessing you're going to say 0 based on your argument
0
today.
Yeah,
Okay.
0.
All right. I'm giving it a 6.5.
6.5.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So, because here's the thing. Here's my second one.
Okay.
Harrison is not the only ghost that's said to haunt the attic.
Oh.
Okay.
So maybe they're fighting.
Maybe.
Maybe he's got his sword. And
I
they're
don't
fighting.
know. I don't know. So now this is from a website called Teresa's Haunted Home. So
Okay.
I'm quoting her here.
Who is Teresa?
I don't know. Some woman that does research into the haunted
Okay.
areas. It's a pretty cool website, so I
right,
recommend
cool,
go checking it
cool.
out. In 1790, David Burns, I like this. This is a rabbit hole. The original owner of the White House property was forced to give up his land in order to build the iconic presidential home. As you said, that was not the very first one. This is not where Washington lived. This is where Adams and after lived.
Mm-hmm.
He would die 9 years later, apparently carrying a chip on his shoulder throughout his afterlife. FDR's valet may have been the first person to publicly come forward with his encounter with David Burns. He had heard someone say his name, and when he turned to see who it was, there was no one there. However, he heard a loud voice in his ear say, "I am Mr. Burns."
Excellent.
Excellent. I am Mr. Burns. I know I can't do a Burns impression. I've been trying. I can't do it. 10 years later, a security guard working under the Truman administration also heard the voice saying, "I am Mr. Burns." No, it doesn't work. Okay. And assumed it was the voice of James Burns, Secretary of State.
Why would the Secretary of State walk in and go?
Because you would assume that's someone that's alive.
Yeah, but why would the Secretary of State walk into the room and go, "I am Mr. Burns"?
Well, maybe he didn't say it. That would be weird.
It's crazy.
Do you walk into rooms and be like, "I am Mr. Harrington"?
I am Mr. Harrington.
The voice has also been heard in the Yellow Oval Room, which at one time served as Abraham Lincoln's library and is quite haunted in its own right, seemingly coming from the attic above. But it has also been heard in the attic as well, especially in the area over the Yellow Oval Room. So this one is a voice
Okay,
that
so
talks.
my question to you is, how much research did you do into this David Burns guy?
Nothing.
So what I'm going to say is that so George Washington was one of the people that planned out making the White House, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody loved him. Everybody. Probably even this Burns. I'm imagining that he gave him a pretty decent deal. He was a tobacco farmer. Tobacco. And I'm sure that Washington gave him a pretty decent deal. So I, first of all, don't believe that he would hold a grudge over this.
Did Washington own?
No.
Or was Washington was like he doing the negotiating?
I believe so, actually, because he plotted where the land would be. He picked the land for it.
But that was for the original, wasn't it? Oh, I guess maybe not, because it was. Let's see here. He was president up until 1797.
Yeah, he never actually served in the White House.
Right. No, I know that. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, Washington.
So I'm sure he would have
Was
given
the
him a
head of-
pretty decent deal for his land because he was a farmer as well. So I'm thinking that I don't know if this David Burns actually had grievance against, them building the White House on his land. But okay, maybe his ghost does. Maybe his ghost is, misinformed or something like that. Again, not many people have heard this Mr. Burns guy.
Well,
speak.
people that have come forward, right?
Okay.
And there's been people that have worked for some pretty big administrations.
I don't know. I just believe that if you hear something like that, you could be mistaken. And we're talking, years and years in between hearing that. So,
Okay.
and who knows if the later people, the Truman administration, if they had actually heard of, the what was it, FDR's valet talking about Mr. Burns or not.
Yeah, I suppose we don't know, other than that wasn't his first assumption. Like, he assumed it was an actual person, and then there wasn't anybody there.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So you ready for the last one?
I am.
So we are going to take a bit of a rabbit hole history dive, just because I also found a super interesting story that I wanted to share. So the last ghost sighting that's related to Harrison is actually his vice president, John Tyler.
Oh, okay.
Also is said to haunt the White House.
And Tyler too?
Tyler too, right?
Wow.
See, Tippecanoe Tyler too. He couldn't just let Harrison have all the ghostly fun.
I thought it was like that they made a clone of Tyler. That's why it was Tyler 2.
No.
Not Tyler 1, Tyler 2.
No, Tyler TOO.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, as you mentioned, Tyler was the first vice president to take over as president, which he did when
Yes.
Harrison died. He had also been a Democrat, but switched to Whig. And so just neither party liked him. Like, he was just not liked, basically. So he also, soon after this all happened, lost his wife, Letitia, not sure, to a stroke. So Washington was against him. He basically knew right away he had no chance of re-election, and he lost his wife. He kind of went a little crazy, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's just my thought.
All right.
Basically, he fell head over heels in love with a woman 30 years his junior, 4 months after his wife died.
Wow.
Her name was Julia Gardner, and surprise, she was wealthy. Tyler was not, and had posed in a magazine advertisement secretly and scandalously as a teenager, and earned the nickname the Rose of Long Island.
Ooh, the
Yes.
Long Island Rose.
Yes. He spent several years courting her and proposed marriage several times. The first time was in the Blue Room of the White House. She rejected his proposal, but she did not cut off ties. Her parents actually really liked him. I mean, again, the president's interested in your daughter, 30 years older. I mean, but he's president. Eventually, he did manage to woo her and get her to marry him. This was after there was like a big dramatic thing where they run a ship in the Potomac and they were testing out this like gun, and it basically backfired and killed a bunch of people on the boat, including like the Secretary of State, the Secretary of the Navy, and Miss Gardner's father.
Wow.
And so then, just kind of like in the drama of all of that, she agreed to marry him. Basically, but some people were happy for him, but a lot of people thought that he was an idiot. Former President John Quincy Adams wrote that the newlyweds were the laughingstock of the city. But you know what? They made the most of his last 8 months in office. She's given credit for the idea of playing Hail to the Chief every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He walked in. Anyways, after that, they retired, had 7 kids, and she never married again. He died.
That's Hail to the Chief. He's the chief and he needs hailing. Hail.
That's good.
Right?
I don't know the lyrics. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they retired, had 7 kids. I guess, he and Harrison, they liked having lots of kids. His last kid was born when he was 70.
Wow.
She never married again, even though he died when she was 41. So since then, Tyler has been seen several times in the Blue Room, where he first proposed to his young love, the Rose of Long Island. So they guess they see him proposing to her.
Okay.
That's what they see.
So, okay. So they see him, can you give me more details of how they see him?
Nope.
Okay.
There's not a lot of detail out there. But I'm guessing, it's that they see him on his knee, on one knee, but I don't know if they did that back then. But yeah, basically he's there asking.
Well, I don't know, because I don't have enough to go on, really. Just that they claim to see him. I don't know how they see him. in what manner they see him. I don't know if it's another person that is reenacting. I don't know what the scenario is. Reenacting the Great Blue Room scene.
Yeah, this one definitely there was not a lot of detail, but it was everywhere. Like anywhere, again, if you look up White House ghosts, it's definitely gonna to be there.
Well, you didn't give your number for the David Burns one.
No, I didn't. You did not either.
I would have if you asked me.
I know. David Burns, I'm that one. I am giving an 8.
An 8?
Yeah, we have some really credible people saying they heard specific things, so I'm going to go with a higher number for that one.
All right, I'm going to go with the same number, which is 0.
Okay, and what do you think for this one in the Blue Room?
Man, if I could give it a negative, I would.
Oh,
it is so far down 0. It's like, yeah.
All right, I'm giving it a 5 just because it's romantic.
Well, that's not a reason to believe in something just because it's romantic.
I think,
and it's not really that romantic. He's a creepy old man.
He is a creepy old. I mean, they ended up happy. She
was 30 years his junior.
She was 24. He was like 54 when they met.
And that's romantic. Oh, how romantic!
I guess. Well, she signed all of her letters until her dying day, Mrs. Former President John Tyler.
Yeah, she might have been proud of the fact that he was president, that she married a president.
I mean, she took charge as first lady.
All right. Is that all you got?
That's all I got.
All right.
Do you want to do an overall number for this one? It's a little hard because they're kind of different.
For me, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
0.
Okay. That's
0.
true.
There was no WHH.
Okay.
He died. He died 31 days in office and has not been seen since.
All right. I'm going to say
although his son was seen after he died because they found his body, which is creepy.
Totally creepy. All right. I'm giving it a 7 overall for our stories today.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's about what you usually give overall.
Yeah.
7 to 7.5. That's what you usually do.
You're keeping track?
Yep. Okay. Well, that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time. We will time each other on our cell phones to keep each other honest. This time I figured out how mine can make a sound.
Ooh, good job.
So I'm really excited about this. Rebecca, are you ready?
I am ready, sure.
All right, and go.
All right, so I think that most of us can agree that the White House is an important place that has a lot of important people in it and therefore a lot of important energy. And that important energy draws spirits to it. I think once someone is a president, especially one that got taken out so early, 31 days, he had so much, he spent 2 hours talking about what he wanted to do with his presidency. He, had so much left that he had in his mind, and he just wasn't able to do literally any of it because he was sick even for most of that 31 days, at least half of it. So, he died tragically. He died in pain and sepsis and all of that. So it doesn't surprise me at all that his spirit is still there, still looking, still wishing he could do the things that he wanted to do. Bam.
There's the sound right
There's
there.
my drop. Good job with the sound.
I didn't even hear
but
what
now
you
you
said.
Can't stop
the sound.
Yeah,
I can't stop. I can't stop it. I didn't even hear what you said. I was just so excited to hear the sound of this. So, Rebecca, you got me?
I got you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, and go.
The numbers do not support this. The numbers of people that potentially saw all these things are so small compared to how many people have worked at the White House. It just, there is a margin of error when we're talking about science. There is a margin of error. These people could have that margin of error. It doesn't mean that there's a ghost. It doesn't mean that there's anything supernatural. The White House is a very historic place. Being that there's been so much history there, people are probably more prone, especially if you're working there by yourself late at night, like your story was. You didn't say that was true, but if you're working there alone, that's got to be kind of creepy being in a big facility that could, have 500 employees and you're the only one. Yeah, I get creeped out if I look too long for clothes in the closet.
Oh, do you have one last thing you want to say? I'll let you.
Nope.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
I was done.
You're done.
So I want to thank you so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as we always say, because word of mouth is our best advertisement. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Come see us at C2E2 if you can. We'll be there every day, Friday, February 28th, Saturday the 29th, and March 1st.
And remember, on the 29th, 2 o'clock, Fountain Downstairs, McCormick Place, we will be there for fan meetup. But if you're there, any of those days, message us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter.
Or email us at info@ghostlypodcast.com.
You got it. And we'll set up, we'll come find you. We'll give you a button.
Yeah.
And we might be making some videos while we're there.
That's the hope. The hope is to make some videos. Also, please make sure that you check out ghostlypodcast.com to see all of our show notes. Rebecca does a great job with all of them. She posts links to everything, all of our research.
Some cool pictures,
videos sometimes. I mean, everything. We've got a lot of stuff up there. And I just would love for you to check it out and see it for yourself at least once.
Yes.
So we will be talking about the old Chicago City Cemetery on the next episode that comes out on March 4th.
This is the craziest thing.
Yes.
I am going to give you a clue.
Okay.
It's similar in some ways to the story of the movie Poltergeist.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them why, though, actually, because they left a bunch of bodies buried under the city of Chicago.
Bodies.
They never moved the bodies. They still discover bodies now.
Yeah.
So it is definitely, it's one of the reasons why Chicago is considered one of the most haunted places on earth.
Yeah, and it's a story that isn't necessarily told as much as you would imagine.
No, and we haven't done a good Chicago ghost story in a while.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
time.
excited to get back home.
Yes.
To talk about stuff on March 4th.
Yes, very excited.
Yep. So until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.